DreAllDay.com.
Before we start, please like and comment on this video so I can get your feedback. Also, click that subscribe button so you can get all the new content I'm dropping on this channel. And the free book, the mental handbook, physical book, Work on Your Game University, just take care of the shipping and handling, send this right to your doorstep. Let's get started. What up, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. We're doing our season previews for 2016-2017 after the depression that was the Brooklyn Nets. Now we get to talk about something that's a little bit more fun. A team that I think has a promising future. I think every team has a promising future except for the Brooklyn Nets because of what they did with their draft picks and their owner who thought he was just going to walk into the NBA and start winning just because he threw money at the situation. He was wrong. Let's talk about a team we can be excited about. Phoenix Suns. I like the city of Phoenix, so the air is a little bit too dry. I like humidity in the air like it is here in Miami. But the Phoenix Suns actually have a team that people should be happy about. People should be excited about the Phoenix Suns team. Shout out to my friends, two of my best friends. Shauna lives out there. My best friends, Wes, they both live out in Arizona. So shout out to Arizona. What else about Arizona? That's all I'm going to say about the city of Arizona. But let's talk about the team, the Phoenix Suns. Last year, they weren't too good, but they had a very young team. They still got a young team. And they added a couple of veteran pieces. They got a new coach in Earl Watson, who I think will relate to the players very well. Earl Watson was one of the guys that, Earl Watson's the type of player that I think makes the best player turned coach. Of all the players who become coaches, he's the type that I think become the best. Not to say that there aren't other types who do. Earl Watson's a guy who was he was for the most part a guy who came off the bench, but he wasn't an end of the bench guy. He was a role player who came off the bench, and he was a solid guy. Like, you knew what you were going to get from Earl Watson every game. You didn't ask him to do more than he could, and you knew he was always going to deliver on the thing that you knew he could deliver. A solid guy, you could know what to expect from him day in, day out as a player. He's the type of guy that I think become the best type of coaches. Now, let me give a couple examples of guys who did well with that. I thought Jeff Hornacek was pretty good at that, but he lost his job. I think he kind of lost the players. Jeff Hornacek's he got that old school mentality. I thought Derek Fisher would be a good coach, but he turned out to not be too good of a coach overall. But I think Derek Fisher's going to get another chance. Doc Rivers. I think in the right situations, Doc Rivers is a good coach. I think he's a good coach of the Clippers. Problem with Doc Rivers is he's also the GM. He's not a good GM. He's a great coach. He's a terrible GM. So the coach is being killed by the GM. It just happens to be the same person with Doc Rivers. And there are a couple other examples. I'll think of them as I'm talking here. Eric Spoelstra is one, even though he didn't play in the NBA. He's an overseas guy. Scrappy guy, play hard guy, fought his way up. So he understands, and he can not only command respect from the stars, but he understands what it feels like to be on the bench. He's not the best example. But then you have guys who were superstars who became pretty good coaches. Larry Bird was a pretty good coach, I would have to say. And there are a bunch of other people who fall into this. Luke Walton is another guy. He hasn't actually head coached yet for the Lakers, but we know he filled in Golden State. Who knows if he was actually a good coach or they just had a hell of a team. Probably a little bit of both. But Luke Walton's another example of a guy who was like a bench player, but a solid guy. You knew what to expect from him game in and game out. They become good coaches because they're not so jaded by being a superstar, but they also understand what it feels like to be on the court with them and playing with them because they're not sitting at the end of the bench. So these type of guys, I think, become very successful as coaches in general. That's not to guarantee Earl Watson is going to be great, but we're going to find out, aren't we? Looking at the Phoenix Suns, one player on this team who definitely excites me, a player who I think moving forward is going to be a super duper star in this league. Actually, no, he's going to be a star in the league. I ain't going to say super duper star, but a star is Devin Booker. Devin Booker, I never even saw him play in college. I didn't even know he played at Kentucky until he started playing in the NBA. I didn't know what he looked like. I would just see the stats. Like, who's this Devin Booker kid? Keeps scoring 25, 30 points in the games. And then I saw what he looked like, and I saw he played at Kentucky. I never knew he even played at Kentucky. Tells you what I know about college basketball. That's why I couldn't say nothing about him last year, but I can say something about him now because I saw what he did last year. Devin Booker obviously can put the ball in the basket. 6'6" shooting guard. He's only 19 years old still. Kentucky veteran. They got a few Kentucky guys here on this team. Archie Goodwin, Tyler Ewis, and also Eric Bledsoe are also on his team. So the Kentucky connection, also because John Calipari keeps sending guys to the league. Looking at the rest of this roster, let's look at the veterans that they got. Leandro Barbosa is a good pickup, solid veteran guy. He left Golden State to go play in Phoenix. I think he played in Phoenix before. So Barbosa is a solid pickup. Eric Bledsoe, I wouldn't even consider him a veteran. He's going to be the man. He's going to be the man running the point for this team. And as he goes, this team's going to go because now they got, who was the other guy they had? Brandon Knight. Brandon Knight's gone, I think. Is he? Oh, no, he's not. I'm wrong. Brandon Knight's still on the team. All right, so Brandon Knight and Eric Bledsoe are both on this team. They got to figure that out because Devin Booker needs to play. All right, and Devin Booker's 19. Brandon Knight is only 24. And Eric Bledsoe is only 26. None of these guys are even in their prime yet, but all three of these guys need to be playing. Brandon Knight needs to be playing. And Brandon Knight's making $12 million a year. Eric Bledsoe 14. And Booker is, I think, the future of this team. He definitely needs to play, and they're all guards. So Earl Watson, yeah, you got some figuring to do. You got to figure out how to make that work because they all should be playing. Chase Budinger is he's a piece guy. He's a piece guy. I say a 7th, 8th man type guy. Tyson Chandler is a good veteran, 33-year-old center, respected, won a championship, been around many teams, been around a lot of different players at different levels. So Tyson Chandler is a good center of gravity guy to have on the team, I think. But we'll find out. Jared Dudley, another solid veteran. He's one of the best pickups that they had in the offseason, Jared Dudley. Looking at the rest of this roster, Alex Len, only 23 years old, big man. Tyler Ewis, I believe it's his first year in the league, right? Who else? TJ Warren, another guy who has some potential. Archie Goodwin, another player with potential. Phoenix has so many guys who are under the age of 25, like 9 or 10 of them. And again, I believe this is just a training camp roster. There's a lot of people on this roster, so everybody's not going to make it. But they got a lot of young talent. They got a new coach. We're going to see if he can manage this young talent, which was John Hornacek's failure. He paid for it with his job. And they got a couple veterans to help keep these guys in line. Jared Dudley being one, and the other being Tyson Chandler. The rest of these, and Chase Budinger kind of, sort of. I think you have to have a certain amount of winning done in the league or a certain amount of stats that you got in the league and be a veteran in order to be respected that way. And Chase Budinger, I don't think he has either. And also, he's only 28, so he's not even, I'm talking, when I say veterans, I mean guys that's like 31 and up, guys who've been around kind of. They've been in the league for several years. Some of these, Tyson Chandler, somebody, he came in the league out of high school. Remember, he's been in the league like 14, 15 years. So he's been around for a while. And Jared Dudley, a guy who's always been a solid guy. He wasn't a high draft pick. He might have been a high draft pick. I think he was a first round pick, but he wasn't like a top 5 pick like Tyson Chandler was. And he's been like a bench guy. Get my time, do my thing, be a solid guy. Those guys get respect in the locker room. And they really going to need it from these two guys with all this youth, especially because they got all these guards. They got, let's see, Tyler Ewis is a point guard. We know that. Brandon Knight's a point guard. Archie Goodwin as shooting guard. You got Devin Booker as shooting guard. Eric Bledsoe at point guard. And also Barbosa. Barbosa is another veteran I think matters. I don't even know how good Barbosa's English is. As long as he can speak English somewhat to the point people can understand him, his veteran presence will matter as well. But overall, Earl Watson got to figure out how to make this team work with all those guards, all that youth, and all those egos. I mean, you don't make it to the NBA without having an ego. Those guys got egos, those guys can play, and guys want to get on the court. And their strength is their backcourt with Bledsoe, Knight, and Booker. And then Ewis, I think, is going to have to get some playing time. So I think one of those point guards got to go. Between Eric Bledsoe and Brandon Knight, one of them has to go. And I think it's going to be Brandon Knight. I think Brandon Knight will probably get traded for either before the start of the season or sometime during the season simply because he should be playing. Brandon Knight is only 24. He's a guy who can put the ball in the basket. He can finish. He can go toe-to-toe with many of the point guards in the league, at least skill-wise. Now, winning-wise and his basketball IQ and all that, I can't speak on because I haven't watched too much of him, but I know he has the physical abilities. I watched enough to know that he has that. So he needs to be playing. As does, Devin Booker. If I had to pick between these 3 guards, only one for the rest of their career, I'm definitely going Devin Booker. Easy. The other 2 guys, don't even take no time to think about that. So they got to make a move, I believe. It can't be Devin Booker. It will either be Bledsoe or it'll be Brandon Knight, but one of them got to go so they can clear up the logjam at the point. Other than that, do I think this is not a playoff team? Unfortunately, Phoenix Suns fans, with this roster, maybe this roster will change. I'm recording this in early September, but with that roster, y'all not going to the playoffs, but you will have a future to be anticipatory. You will anticipate the future because you're going to see what it can be moving forward. They're going to need some other pieces. They're going to need some of these young guys to mature. Alex Len needs to mature if he's going to be a guy that they can actually depend on in the future. And Tyson Chandler's mentorship will help him along the way. What else? They're going to need someone to mentor these guards. Eric Bledsoe is not a guy to mentor. He's only 26. So I wouldn't consider him a mentor to anybody. They needed someone to mentor those guards. They need to bring in a veteran guard who will come off the bench, but been around stars, been a bench guy, been a starter, a guy who's won some games, is respected he can come in there and kind of mentor those guards. Earl Watson can do it, but he's the coach. There's only so much you can do as a coach. You need somebody else who's in their ear and talking to them when the coach ain't allowed to be in the room. That's what the Phoenix Suns need. Phoenix, y'all are not making the playoffs with this roster unless some changes get made. Maybe you can make the playoffs with some other people who come in, some other guys who go. But even if the roster stays as it is this year, Phoenix, you're going to have some promise. You're going to be excited about what you see from this team. So congratulations to you. You ain't making the playoffs, but it's going to be a fun season to watch. I think Devin Booker is going to have a big year once they get one of those guards the hell out the way so he can do his thing. Everybody, the next team we're going to cover, I believe, is the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves are definitely a team that will be interesting to talk about because of the team that they had last year, because of the draft that they had, because of the new coach that they have. And I think it's going to be very interesting to watch this team coming up next year. I'm almost 100% sure that it is going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. We're going to pull it up while we're here. Thank you for your patience. All right, so we had the Brooklyn Nets won 21 games. We covered them already. So we're going in reverse order for those who don't know. Yes, the Minnesota Timberwolves with 29 wins is next. And the next team will be the New Orleans Pelicans. And the next team will be the New York Knicks. So that'll be fun to talk about. See y'all tomorrow with the next preview. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.